चलिए आप बता दें कि बाजार की अगली चाल कैसी रह सकती है। हमारे साथ बाजार के जानकार आज जुड़े हैं रघु कुमार जी, आरकेएसवी के को फाउंडर हैं। रघु, गुड मॉर्निंग, वेलकम टू जी बिजनेस। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, हाउ आर यू सीइंग मार्केट्स राइट नाउ? आर एफआईज cautious at current levels or they will invest? What is your stance?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on the show. Right now, FIs are really investing heavily into the equity and debt markets. If you look at May, for example, the debt market saw almost 20,000 crores invested into it. So that was a new high for the past 2.5 years. So obviously FIs are very bullish in India. And as far as the equity markets are concerned, right now the equity markets, in my opinion, are overpriced. From all sectors. Right now there's a lot of euphoria happening in India. There's a lot of good vibes kind of going around the country. And sectors all across the board, and also blue chip stocks, mid cap stocks, small cap stocks, they're all kind of really rallying quite a bit. So there's going to be some correction that happens. Whether it happens before budget or after budget is still to be seen.
Raghu, but nobody questioned the markets when the stocks were falling and the PE of many of the stocks were contracting. Now the markets are starting to run up. How are you seeing the markets pre-budget, and if by any chance there is a dip in the markets, whether you will be buying the Indian markets?
Well, there wasn't much of a dip, right? I mean, if you think about the markets from, say, January onward, there were two different phases. One phase was from January through May, which was elections. And even during that whole time, the expectation was that the BJP party would win the elections. So they won the elections, and then since then there's been another rally. So there hasn't really been that much of a dip in 2014. Now, in my opinion, like I said, I do think that the markets are overvalued, and there's going to be some correction that happens. For example, let's take an example of just the small cap index on the BSE. The small cap index is basically the smallest of the stocks traded on the BSE. Now they've appreciated 50% over the past 3 months. Whether you speak to a fundamental analyst, a technical chartist, it really doesn't matter who it is. They're all going to say that there's no rational reason for that to happen. Now the only reason that is happening is because of all the euphoria that's kind of surrounding the country right now. So I do believe that there's going to be some correction, like I said, and it's just a matter of time before that happens.
If you say that this is a euphoria which is right now happening in the markets, but markets generally moves just because of sentiments and try to factor in good moves, good news before it comes. It tries to factor in. Now the key thing here is that the government is trying to escalate the path of reforms right now. Which key reforms do you think will be the first to come, and what sectors will it affect, and which sectors will be the most affected according to the priority?
That's a good question right there. So if you look at the reforms, for example, many people are talking about reforms and the government having implemented reforms, but if you look at it, the government has only, the new government has only come into power 3 weeks ago, and over the past 3 weeks, obviously it's not the fault of the government. What I'm saying is, in 3 weeks, nothing can really happen, right? So it's going to take time for reforms to really kick in. So it's going to be very important for the government to send out a very strong message. What's happening right now is that the government has a position of strength, and there's a lot of stability. And when people look at the government right now, they're looking at a government that seems to be in control of things. So when the budget happens, it's important for them to introduce some reforms. I do believe that since it is, Prime Minister Modi and his Gujarat model, it was all centered around infrastructure. So infrastructure is definitely going to be talked about at the budget. And also the banking sector. The banking sector, there's a lot of overhaul that can be done to just kind of make it easier for people to bank in India. Right now, there's only 3 to 5% of Indians are actually investing in the capital markets in general. So there's a lot of reforms that can be done in the banking sector. And then finally, one thing that many might overlook is just the ease of being able to invest in India, whether it's domestically or more importantly, foreign institutional investors. There's a lot of, just a lot of ambiguities with tax laws and red tape, and I think that's something that Mr. Modi has spoken about in the past, and I think he will definitely address that, at the budget.
जी रघु, आपके पास वापस आएंगे और जानेंगे आपसे कौन से सेक्टर्स, कौन से शेयर्स पे यहाँ पर आप बुलिश हैं और कहां पर आपने क्लाइंट्स को एडवाइस किया। उससे पहले निकले रघु, आई कम बैक टू यू। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, व्हाट्स योर टेक ऑन फर्टिलाइजर सेक्टर? एंड देयर आर मेनी थीम्स व्हिच आर करंटली मूविंग इन द मार्केट्स लाइक फर्टिलाइजर्स, शुगर्स, होटल्स। हाउ आर यू सीइंग दीज मिड कैप काउंटर्स व्हिच हैव स्टार्टेड टू मूव अप?
I touched upon the mid-cap index. So the mid-cap index on the BSE has already gone up 35% over the past 3 months. So I do think that a lot of these stocks are overvalued, and I know I'm going against a lot of analysts, but this is my opinion. The only exception I would make to that amongst those stocks and sectors you mentioned is sugar. That's because the food minister is introducing a 10% import tax for importing sugar. So that's going to obviously help domestic firms that produce sugar. Outside of that, I would really kind of steer clear. One sector that we really have not touched upon very much is the IT sector. Just a few months ago, IT was all over the news, right? And now we're not really talking about it too much, and it's because those stocks have not appreciated. So if I was to, take a stance on one sector, it would actually be IT, because if you look at the entire IT sector, it's fallen over the past few months, and there's really no reason for that. Yes, the rupee has appreciated a little bit. It's gone from 61, 62 to 58. But I do believe that in the long run, the RBI is going to do whatever it takes to ensure that the rupee stays stable. It stays within the 58 to 60 range, and it does whatever it can to boost the IT sector.
रघु, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए, बाजार पर बात करने के लिए। आईटी सेक्टर आपके फोकस में है, कॉन्ट्रा मूव हो सकता है यहाँ पर बाजार के इस पड़ाव पे। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अपना कीमती समय जी बिजनेस को देने के लिए। फिलहाल बाजार पर देखें तो जोरदार मोमेंटम 50